Number 10, friendly fire. Oh boy, this is just, I don't know, it's just silly. It's less WTF admittedly, and we're just like, why though? So if you end up getting the Phaser Blaster, you can stun animatronics that are chasing you by shooting them in the eyes. This temporarily blinds them. That all makes sense to me. The other item you can get, the Phas Camera, works in a similar way with its flash. Also, that makes sense. And yet, you can also use this to stun your friend Glamrock Freddy. Why would you ever want to do that? Why is that even possible? Why is that even an option? Just how sadistic is Gregory? These are all the questions I'm left to ask myself, and unfortunately you, who chose to watch this video, this shouldn't even be an option in the game, and yet hey, it is. You can do it. Just because Gregory is probably kind of partly a jerk all the time. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Gaming, make sure you show us that you love us and that you want more FNAF content by hitting that like. Number 9, traveling around in Glamrock Freddy. Why is this weird to me? I mean, it's cool, but why is it weird? Well, because it really doesn't seem like there is enough room inside Freddy for you as Gregory to fit. And I still stand by this observation today. I've honestly been saying it since the release of this game, when we got to see the chest cavity and also get a sense for, you know, our own size as Gregory in the game. It just doesn't add up to me. And the claustrophobic side of myself kind of feels like, as cool as it is to move around more safely in Freddy and also in essence pilot him, that is cool, I personally would never want to climb inside of his chest, no matter how small or how big it was. That just seems like, no thank you. And definitely not if it is things like Fazwatch is also in there that I gotta share space with. That part where it appears that you get out still confuses me. Did the Fazwatch only appear like after, like moving up inside Freddy from another part of him, like a limb or something? Or was it there the whole time? If it was there the whole time, there's really no room. It really doesn't make sense. Number 8, what's in the vent? One of the most actually terrifying moments comes from the Music Man who chases us in the vent. But also, I have some questions about this. Where did this Music Man come from? Why is he in the vent? Why is there a small and giant Music Man in this game? Is this little Music Man part of DJ Music Man's army? Like, does he have a bunch of them? That sounds horrifying. And still, why is he in the vent? The sequence where you are chased by the little Music Man through the vent feels somehow even more terrifying than being chased by a regular size animatronic, even though that should feel more threatening. And yet it also feels like a weird choice in terms of the narrative, but I guess in terms of creating a horrifying moment, the developers did succeed here, which is probably why Music Man is in the vent to begin with. But I don't know, maybe that's also his dressing room? After all, you know, the main stage animatronics all get dressing rooms, so I mean, do the other animatronics get dressing rooms? Do the wet floor signs, do they have a room they gotta go to? They should at least get like a green room or something where they can just like chill and hang out, or a break room, you know?
And at 7, steals merch. While yes, Gregory does steal multiple items while we play the game, he's also stolen some stuff prior to the game starting. If you pay attention to his character model and some of the comic panels and various endings, we can see that his shirt and shoes, are at the very least, are Freddy Fazbear themed. They have Freddy's head on them, and considering how this kid has no home, sleeping in a cardboard box at the end of the worst ending, I doubt he could really afford to properly purchase Fazbear Entertainment clothing. And considering how he's breaking in, I feel like it's needless to say that he stole the clothes off of Fazbear's back. This is why they have to keep reopening, otherwise they'd be so bankrupt the current CEO, whoever they are, would end up having to actually also live in a cardboard box. This kid alone is the reason they can never fully close and have to keep reopening. Like, honestly, that's probably the only way them reopening makes sense, aside from them being money hungry who don't care about how many children actually perish for them to live their comfortable lives. And at 6, resisting arrest. So while most reports of resisting arrests are exaggerated, when it comes to Gregory, I don't really think it is. This man literally escapes the lost and found room while the police are supposed to be on their way. Yes, Vanny is coming to kill us, but if you think about it, you can escape even before we are aware of Vanny's presence, meaning that we are actively resisting arrest, or as close to arrest as it can be. Technically, if we look at it in a certain way, it could be considered a citizen's arrest, and I know that it's not how it would work in real life, okay? So cool your jets before you comment. Wait, you already did comment? You were complaining about an earlier number? Wow. Who cares if it's not how things would work in the real world? This is a game. Afton wouldn't work like he does in the real world. Possession doesn't exist in the real world. So just like cool it, okay? Gregory is resisting arrest for breaking out of the lost and found room, and he also stole a screwdriver that he uses to do it. Plus, removing vent covers could also be considered. Halfway through into number 5, vandalism. Not only does Gregory damage multiple vents and vent covers throughout the game, but the main objective of the game is actually a crime. Yeah, that's right, you heard me. Us upgrading Freddy using the parts of other animatronics that we acquire through destructive means is indeed vandalism. Or it could be considered destruction of property instead if you wanted to head, I guess, maybe more of a specific route or in that direction. Either way, destroying these animatronics, despite them trying to get to us, is a crime. Technically, we don't know what happens when we get caught by an animatronic. Our screen cuts out before we see any real harm come to us, so we are assuming that we get killed, which is the likely scenario, but it's still merely an assumption. Plus, they're animatronics, so we can't really claim self-defense. I mean, like, I guess it would depend on the jury and the judge as to whether you could claim self-defense or not. Like, yeah, you feared for your life, but does that really call for hitting Roxy with a go-kart, crushing Chica in a trash compactor, and then smashing Monty with a giant bucket? Or could you just have, like, hid inside Freddy's green room the whole time? They could also even use the fact that Freddy was good and helping you as a reason as to why the rest wouldn't have hurt you. So yeah. In it for fraud. Technically speaking, Gregory also commits fraud by getting into the Pizzaplex and the daycare center. The definition of fraud is, quote, wrongful or criminal deception intended to result in financial or personal gain. And he was personally gaining from using that Mr. Hippo magnet on the ticket machine and getting into the Pizzaplex for free. So within the first 25 minutes of the game, we're already committing multiple crimes. And if the magnet messed with the machine even more, then we end up committing at least 3 different crimes within the first 25 minutes. Theft, fraud, and vandalism if the machine gets messed up, not to mention the whole trespassing and breaking and entering thing. Yeah, Gregory has quite the rap sheet after this game. Even within the first hour of the game, this guy has some serious issues. Maybe this kid isn't Afton, considering how like nonchalant he is with committing so many freaking crimes.
Number 3, demise of Roxy. I think one of the most messed up moments in this game is when you need to fight Roxy after you've in essence blinded her and like drastically messed her up. This really was the moment that made me question everything I thought I knew about this animatronic and her personality. Sure, Roxy seems self-centered and egotistical to begin with, but when you see just how devastated she is at the prospect of perhaps no longer being beautiful and being loved and accepted, oh man, that like hits you. It really shows you just how sad of a character this really is. It made me feel for Roxy, and it also made me feel horrible for everything being done to her. Like, I was thinking, dang, I don't want to see this animatronic hurt, but also that's how the game goes, so that's just like a thing that you have to have happen. You have to defeat her. You have to, in essence, kill her with fire. Or, you know, maybe not straight up kill her with fire, but at least stop her with fire. Number 2, it was Afton all along? The reveal that none of us were really hoping for, but I guess some part of us all was expecting to happen. I think the fact that William Afton was the villain behind Security Breach was not surprising, but at the same time, it was definitely something many of us were kind of hoping would not happen. Or I think even if you were like, oh, I want William Afton to come back, when it did happen, you were like, oh wait, maybe I never wanted that. Because like, why? I mean, William Afton is a horrifying villain, don't get me wrong, but he's also a very dead villain. A dead villain that we thought had been dead for a long time and multiple times over. And yet here we are with a villain that seems to keep coming back no matter how dead he is. He's been spring locked, returned as a restless, rotting corpse. He's been incinerated. He's been a ghost who haunted technology, getting uploaded into a game with his consciousness after he died, and now he seems to somehow be a charred husk looking for a new form. Cool, 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 great, love it. Number 1, sleepy time candy. Ugh, Moondrop, ugh. I don't really mind the energizing candy in this, the sun drop candy, although I do feel like that maybe is sus too, because caffeine and high levels of caffeine and giving that to kids. But the sleepy time candy, that you can give to kids? I really don't know about that. Moondrop is what we often name the nighttime persona of the daycare attendant. This attendant also has its own matching candy, which is named after it and known for helping kids sleep. Or does anyone sleep? Would this candy work on me? Is it not just for kids? There's something really creepy to me about a candy that involuntarily can make you pass out. There's something really creepy to me about a candy that makes you sleep at all, because, well, it could be used for nefarious purposes pretty easily. Honestly, this was probably one of the biggest things in the game that freaked me out, though the moondrop persona of the daycare attendant in general is just really creepy. That and like when Moondrop is around, you get like the nighttime-y vibes. Oh, I don't like that either. That bothers me.
In at 10 to Rockstar Row. During the so-called interrogation and torture scene in Parts and Service, or at least that's what people are calling it, based on the titles of videos on YouTube, Vanessa questions Freddy about Gregory and accuses Freddy of helping us, which I mean is true, but she shouldn't even have to accuse him. More on that later. After telling him that she's gonna leave him down there until he can get put on a new endo, which doesn't really make sense if his coding is the issue and not the endoskeleton itself, why would she leave to Rockstar Row through Roxy's lift? Why? When she could have easily just come our way and head into the main atrium. That's where Gregory is for the majority of the game, and that's where all the animatronics are patrolling and have been spotting him. It would make more sense to go there than to Rockstar Row, where he was seen maybe twice at this point. Like, I don't know, it seems weird to me. I don't understand. Maybe like the whole logic behind this is that since all the animatronics are out in the atrium, she doesn't need to be there, or maybe she needs to be somewhere where she can get to her Vanny suit quickly, but I don't know. Even if it is Vanessa taking over and not like glitch trap at this point, I still don't get why she wouldn't just go to the atrium. In at 9, Bag of Rocks. Before Vanessa leaves Freddy in Parts and Service, okay, she says that it's so that his casing can be put on a new endo after they probably have someone on the clock who can do it normally. But then after that, she doesn't seem to be suspicious that he's walking around in front of her maybe within like 3 minutes. What? Who would have repaired him if not for, like, if it wasn't Gregory? There's literally no other human in the Pizzaplex, or at least that's alive at this point, and you know, Freddy can't really do it himself. The whole cylinder thing is to protect humans. There are no staff bots in this section, and the only reason that you had to leave him was because nobody else was working. Hello? You there, McFly? Like, why would Vanessa be so chill about Freddy just like walking around in front of her? She literally left him with his head removed, and now she's like, what, assuming that he somehow did it himself, which is literally impossible as he was strapped down. Even if he had done it himself, why wouldn't she see him and then confine him to his room, especially after just accusing him of helping to protect Gregory? Okay, it's something that confuses me like so much, and I found it weird in my first playthrough, so I figured that if we got close to Vanessa, she would pull us out of Freddy, but like, I walked up to her to test it and nothing. She gave absolutely zero shits. Like, why? She's dumber than a bag of rocks at this point. It would have been so easy just to make like that little modification to her code for at least this part of the game, like making her a little bit more dangerous if she saw Freddy, but no, they didn't. In at 8, Princess Quest. The whole reason Princess Quest is a thing in this game was to lock Vanessa away in her brain and prevent her from regaining full control over her body. So why did William create or allow for the creation of a fail-safe in this system that allows her to escape? I mean, like, sure, they didn't expect a kid to come along and figure it out maybe, but first of all, it's an arcade machine, of course I'm gonna goddamn play it, but also given the track record of literally all of your plans, you'd think that Afton would have smartened up after like 40 years at the very least, but he doesn't, okay? It's like having a self-destruct button on the bomb that you plan to use to blow up Gotham City, okay? Or like it's like, I don't get it. It's like if the Joker had a purify water supply button just on him or something, okay? It's dumb. If you want something to work, why give it a way to fail? Or maybe that's just my brain and my perfectionism talking, but again, it's one of the dumbest things that Afton has actually ever done in the series. Like, canonically it doesn't backfire somehow, but that's aside the point. Like, but seriously, why would you have a way to undo your evil plans? A 4-year-old can do this. The fact that this wasn't the canon ending is actually just insane how that didn't happen. Just bury the third machine, at least. God damn. Like, if that's the intention behind it, just bury it and leave it, okay? Fill it with concrete and leave it. Jeez.
Number 7, Mega DJ Music Man. I can't believe this really happened in the game. Also, if we're talking about animatronics getting their own dressing rooms, like, DJ Music Man would need like such a Such a big dressing room. He's such a big animatronic. A giant music man. That was real life in this game. I was so convinced when we got our first look at the trailer that Music Man, the giant Music Man that we saw, was going to be some kind of like delusional moment. Like we'd simply imagine that Music Man was bigger than he was, we'd hallucinate it, and honestly when I found out about the Sleepy Time candy, that honestly seemed even more plausible. I was like, oh boy. Sleepy Time candy, whoo! But no, giant DJ Music Man is a real thing, and apparently he is usually a super nice guy, according to Glamrock Freddy. Super nice guy. However, in the game, he doesn't seem so nice when he's chasing you and your heart is thumping and you're literally running for your life. Yeah, DJ Music Man from Security Breach is still something that will haunt my nightmares today. It honestly kind of makes me wish he was some kind of hallucination or dream sequence in the game. I don't know, that would be more easy to accept, other than like, that's real life. That's horrifying. Number 6, ending the game early. I think one of the weirdest things that's built into this game is the ending the game early option. Like the fact that we get that option, that's weird to me. That's just, it's an interesting thing to build in, and I don't fully understand really why they did. Like I get having multiple different endings, cause that's cool, but giving you even the option to leave at 6 AM and just like end the game when there is so much more to do in this game, and the game would be so short if you just stopped playing entirely there. I don't know, why is that an option? Did they add it in because they wanted people to have an out if they were too scared? And the real question, did anyone actually like full stop playing there? Let me know if you did, because I bet some people did do that, and those people would have drastically missed out, or did drastically miss out. That's why I don't even think the option should be available for us in game. It just seems weird. Number 5, lack of Vanny. Vanny was a character that we all got excited for. She was at least alluded to in Help Wanted, and you know, that was a theory when it came to her involvement in this game. And we knew about Vanessa, and then through Special Delivery it was kind of hinted that Vanessa and Vanny may be one and the same, and that Vanessa was being manipulated or influenced by Afton into doing his bidding, revealing a darker side to her. This was also the theory for what would continue to happen in the game Security Breach. And because of that, people thought that Vanessa and Vanny might be, you know, the main antagonist, or Vanny would be anyways, between those two personas. And even better, maybe this would actually be a villain we could actually save. Maybe we'd actually get a villain that gets redeemed. Oh my goodness. And then Security Breach came out, and Vanny didn't do very much. Even the Vanny specific ending that we get is honestly kind of disappointing. We don't even get a Vanny boss battle option really, at least not a playable one. Number 4, upgrading Glamrock Freddy. One of the most messed up things that you do in the game is definitely defeating Glamrock Freddy's friends and stealing their parts to upgrade him. Especially since you generally try to avoid talking to him about like where exactly you got the parts and how exactly that happened. And when you do mention it, you're kind of just like, oh yeah, that happened, don't worry about it. And when it does end up coming out sort of what did happen and where you got the parts, yeah, it's an awkward conversation to have. Glamrock Freddy also seems really hurt that you hurt his friends. Oh, and he's like, they're not in their right minds, they're just innocent victims. And then there is the whole weirdness of how detached Gregory seems to be in regards to his own emotions surrounding the destruction of these seemingly somewhat sentient animatronics. I mean, I feel like he's a little shocked, but he doesn't seem to be distraught at all. And I mean, I don't know if these animatronics, all of them, are specifically sentient, but based on our experiences with Glamrock Freddy, I think it's relatively safe for us to assume they are on some level, right?
Getting close to the end, and at number 3, destruction. And isn't it convenient that there is a way to break every other animatronic that isn't Freddy? Okay, that leaves the animatronic broken in such a way that we can remove whatever aspect we actually needed to upgrade Freddy? Hell yeah, it is. It's so convenient, in fact, that there is somehow a way to break them that just works perfectly for their personality, and the perfect amount of the animatronics as well. That works the first time. And even with Chica, okay, we push her into a goddamn trash compactor and somehow don't get crushed ourselves despite her grabbing onto us and pulling us with her. We only get pulled down into another area of the Pizzaplex that we can still get back to the Pizzaplex through, and you know, we weren't pulled into a thing that crushed our skulls. So yeah, needless to say that looking at this logically, it makes absolutely zero sense that any of this actually happened. Okay, we didn't even need to crush the animatronics, and instead we could have just chilled in Freddy's room until 6 a.m. when the doors opened. And ultimately, in at number 2, staying until 6. Speaking of which, Glamrock Freddy straight up encourages Gregory to risk his life in order to get out of the Pizzaplex, when in all honesty, the safest thing to do would have just been to keep him in your stomach or in your green room until 6 a.m., especially after the door closes and he was definitely stuck, which just, it makes no sense whatsoever if Freddy is really meant to be protecting Gregory. There was no need for the whole daycare secret escape hatch thing. You could have just gone back the way you came and everything would have been fine. You wouldn't have been suspicious since you would have at least appeared to be like you listened to Vanessa after you saw her in the healing area and went actually back to your room, and then Gregory would have been safe, especially after you knew that there was some crazy bunny running around the pizza place looking to slaughter him. So yeah, if Glamrock Freddy is like supposed to be protecting him, he did a horrible job at protecting this kid. Okay, I don't understand. You can think of all the excuses you want for him, but if Gregory had just waited in Freddy's green room, everything would have been fine. That's it. That's period. And finally, in at number 1, probable betrayal. I know that nobody wants to believe me on this, okay? We all want to hold out hope that finally one of the animatronics is going to be good and trying to help us, but Glamrock Freddy, after everything on this list, is almost certainly evil and just waiting for the perfect moment to strike. We've made a whole video about that, okay? And now, honestly, this one is kind of about that too. This guy makes some hella sketchy choices throughout our entire time at the Pizzaplex and only makes things worse for us. He takes us to get healed despite us saying no and having a limited time to leave, which ends up making us get locked inside the Pizzaplex. We also just sit in the booth and don't actually get healed, by the way, okay? He was unable to access the main Pizzaplex network despite having no reason to be disconnected, since at this point he wasn't suspected of helping us. And after Vanessa leaves Freddy without his head and parts in service, she sees him fully reassembled in less than 5 minutes and doesn't question it, like I said. Almost as if it was the plan the whole time. There's no way that he could have been put back together normally, and they just don't care, okay? The only way that this makes sense, any of this makes sense, is that if Freddy is secretly evil, and maybe even he doesn't know it. Maybe Afton is like in the back of his mind just like waiting to come forward. And at 10, breaking and entering. This kid is known for breaking into the Pizzaplex, as we learn through the therapy CDs that you can find at the end of the game. The ones revolving around Client 46 are certainly intended to be Gregory, and every time he breaks in, he ends up getting caught on camera or by technicians or someone working there. Enough times to actually mention it to his therapist, who then brings it up with Gregory. Breaking and entering would actually be what he'd be charged with if he wasn't under 12 and seemingly could actually get caught. But despite a few witnesses, the cameras never get a solid shot of him. Probably due to Vanny, since the camera was distorted when talking to something with bunny ears. I originally thought this distortion could be Gregory being a robot, however it was pointed out to me in the comments of the Gregory is in therapy theory video that the distortion was most likely due to Vanny. And at 8, steals security badges. Not only is this just like a stealthy kid, he's also a thief. This guy steals so many things from the Pizzaplex, like not to mention all the little gift boxes you can find around. He also steals all the security badges that end up getting him level 7 clearance as a 6-year-old or however old he is. It's really unclear because he can't ride the go-karts alone and he can fit in Freddy's chest cavity but can also speak full sentences with proper grammar and stuff. No idea how old he is, but he's still able to gain level 7 clearance. That's ridiculous. I don't think I would technically count it as impersonating a security guard because he's not really doing that, but that is absolutely stealing. And this isn't the only time too. He steals more than just some prizes and some badges. It gets even worse than just stealing. Like worse in both the vein of the severity of the crime and in general the severity of the stealing. Halfway through, in at number 5, Ice Cold Captive. Gregory in the Faster Blast ending actually orders the robots to disassemble Vanny, since she just ordered them to disassemble Freddy. But like, disassembling a robot and a human are two very different things. Okay, trust me, I would know. I'm surprised the robots even listened to him. Adding on to that, the fact that Gregory is willing to kill Vanny here, it's pretty messed up, especially given that like most people assume that he's 10 or 11, which doesn't really seem to make sense. Either way, you could argue that he doesn't know any better, but clearly he does. Okay, this kid is able to destroy all 3 animatronics without a moment's hesitation, use their upgrades on Freddy, he's willing to kill Vanny despite seemingly knowing her like we see in the best ending, and then he burns Burn Trap multiple times to make sure he doesn't take over Freddy. Okay, what the living hell is this kid doing? Like, how was he raised? How is he so nonchalant about literally doing all of this? This guy kills Vanny and then only gets emotional when he has to go talk to Freddy, who is destroyed. Dude, Vanny is bleeding out not 3 feet from you. She is torn to shreds and you're crying over a robot that can be fixed? Something isn't right about this kid. He's supposed to be the captive here, but he's the one putting everyone else in danger, I swear. In it for recharge. What's the deal with airplane food and Glamrock Freddy and needing to recharge every 5 minutes, okay? Like, in the game sense, time isn't moving when I'm running around for 5 hours since I haven't actually progressed the story. So if this animatronic is supposed to need to recharge every hour only, why is this such an issue? And why does he only use power when we're actually piloting him like a mech? If this is the case, shouldn't this man also be losing power when we summon him to grab us from the 3rd basement floor? Like, what? Why not? And why does he need to recharge but seemingly all the other animatronics don't? I never see Chica, Roxy, or Monty in a recharge station. Okay, even if you are around when they should be, when the hour hits. Okay, it's stupid, it's confusing, and it doesn't make any sense. It's almost like Freddy is doing this to us on purpose. Either because he thinks that it's funny, or maybe he really is working for Vanny, but needs to gain our trust and make excuses for why he can't be around us all the time, so that he can just go and give her the information, or why he can't just why we can't hide inside of him all night, okay? There's something fishy going on with this animatronic, and I swear in the next game we're going to figure out that he betrayed us off screen. Or at least in the DLC we're gonna figure that out. Getting close to the end, and in number 3, grand larceny. Stealing a boatload of trinkets, fine. Assuming that we gave a pass to Gregory, okay? He still commits grand larceny, which in the US is typically seen as stealing anything with a combined value of $400 or more, or something that would cost over $400 to replace in a reasonable amount of time. If we ignore the 87 collectible prize boxes found throughout the game, which would easily equal over $400, he still steals Freddy at the end of the game! In multiple endings, Freddy and Gregory leave without a care in the world, including the canon ending. And before you say, Connor, I'm calling BS, Freddy chose to leave with Gregory in those endings. Freddy is a robot! He is an animatronic. He cannot physically make that choice. He is property of Fazbear Entertainment. He is not a living being. He has no rights. He is an object in the most literal sense of the word, which makes me think that we need to start advocating for animatronic rights now. I mean, Freddy didn't consent to Gregory climbing inside him the first time, so Gregory in theory should be getting charged with a whole lot more than just grand larceny for stealing Freddy. And if you tell me that you don't think replacing Freddy in a reasonable amount of time would cost more than $400, I need you to leave this video. Thank you. He would probably be the most expensive one to replace, I'm sure. And ultimately, in at number 2, hacked animatronics. Assuming Gregory is client 46, which is kind of required for this list, he's also guilty of hacking the animatronics, as we learned multiple times throughout his sessions. The only issue I have now is why is he hacking the animatronics? Like, he definitely had a purpose, since to quote Disc 16, what I understand is that the glitch stopped being a glitch and turned into an intentional set of subroutines that were aimed at creating the same thing the glitch created. Those subroutines seem to have come from you. Can you explain that? And I think that I can explain that. There's like a good and an evil motive for this hack, depending on which one they want to be canon. The evil motive would be that Gregory was just working with William and Vanessa, so he hacked the animatronics and made sure the glitch he caused instilled itself into the robots so that his work couldn't be undone, to end up distracting all the employees from what's really going on in the Pizzaplex. The good intention, which is the one I think would push the story further ahead, and is probably the more likely one, would be that he lied about his family to the therapist so that he could keep seeing them, and he would have more time in the company building so that he could hack the animatronics, causing them to malfunction in an effort to get the company or the FNAF AR special delivery project shut down. Hence why the glitch ended up being a closed loop where it was replicating itself over and over so it couldn't be deleted. The girl in the center of the FNAF Security Breach Ruins poster is most likely our player character for the game, considering how Gregory seems to be stuck since the words "help me" are written on a monitor showing his face. But who is this mysterious main character? It's a question that not many have an answer to, but I think I have a pretty solid one. So that's what we're exploring today. Let's do it. Firstly, let's go over a theory that I've been seeing that I wanted to stop in its tracks. I mean, it's probably not gonna happen, because this video is probably gonna get like 6,000 views max, but either way, the identity of this little girl is 100% not Susie, the girl who goes on to possess Chica. Susie has been dead for a long time once the game takes place, being dead for over 50 years or so. So there is literally no possible way that this girl could be Susie. You may be thinking that she could be possessed by Susie, but we released her spirit in the Happiest Day minigame, and she has only possessed Chica as far as we've known. Some assume that the Happiest Day minigame takes place at the end of the timeline, however I don't think that's true. Considering how FNAF 3 was supposed to be the end, and that when FNAF 3 is over we get the good ending, to me that indicates that the Happiest Day minigame takes place in FNAF 3, especially considering how the simulated pizzeria FNAF 6 does not have to lure the original animatronics back to the pizzeria, meaning that they did not need to be released because, well, they had already been dealt with. So about this girl, let's go over some evidence about what we see on the poster. Firstly, there is her blonde hair. We know that it's blonde thanks to the rim lighting on the character being blonde at her hair, and while yes it may seem stupid, I think that the general consensus is that this girl is blonde. While rim lighting is the color of the light that it is instead of the color of the person, it also isn't going to be yellow on a darker surface, so this means that her hair is not black, eliminating Cassidy from the race. So this is not the spirit that was possessing Golden Freddy, or who a good amount of people consider the one you should not have killed, aka the Vengeful Spirit from Ultimate Custom Night. The girl in the middle is also wearing a jacket and what appears to be a denim skirt, fingerless gloves, white socks, and sneakers that light up Skechers style. Hashtag not sponsored, but like Skechers, hit me up, we can probably work something out. Now this may not be out of the ordinary to any of you, but this instantly reminded me of someone from a previous game. As I did mention this in another video, Elizabeth Afton. Okay, I get that she's been dead for longer than Susie, but just hear me out, okay? See, when we were playing Sister Location, we ended up getting the cutscene where Elizabeth is grabbed and killed by Baby, turning Baby's eye color from blue to green. This outfit that this mysterious girl is wearing is nearly identical to the one that Elizabeth was wearing in that minigame, aside from the light up shoes that wouldn't be available for another decade by real world standards. However, in FNAF in 1983, they also had discs that emitted sounds that altered the appearance of things in your brain. So a couple of light up shoes 10 years early doesn't really seem like that much of a stretch. The skirt is also identical to the skirt that Elizabeth wears in that cutscene, and the jacket could easily be covering up a similar styled shirt, which could be pushing the idea that Gregory having two stripes on his shirt is definitely important. But I want to talk about the color. You see, there is no real color on this girl. Bumping up the saturation, brightness, or vibrance actually shows that this girl is drawn in black and white. Have you ever heard of the saying, lack of evidence is sometimes itself evidence? Like maybe you're dealing with a professional killer, or that these thieves are overly cautious. Well, I think that this is a similar situation. Think about it. Why would they draw this girl in black and white? I mean, yeah, sure, she's backlit, but being backlit doesn't make you grayscale. This is an indication that the color of this girl's clothing can possibly mean something.
Maybe there's something I'm missing out on here. Maybe I'm just not making or eating large enough cakes. Sweet, sweet, ginormous birthday cakes. Where are you? Another thing that seems odd is you never really wear the clothes that you collect. At least not as far as we can tell or see. Now they might increase your stats to just have them like in your inventory, but as far as we know, Gregory never puts those items on. Is this because he always has to remain in the outfit that he died in? Because, you know, he's a freaking ghost? Perhaps the only clothes he can wear are the ones he's already wearing. And I know what you're thinking, okay, but then what about the Faz Watch? Well, the Faz Watch could still be an item that Gregory could have equipped because it doesn't actually interfere with the ethereal clothes that he's already wearing. After all, the Faz Watch is more of an accessory really than like an outfit choice. Also, if my theory is right and he is a spooktacular spirit, it's also very likely that he's like a poltergeist who can interact with and hold objects in the real world, like the flashlight, the laser blaster, his Faz Watch, and other such items that he is able to use. Though even then, you don't typically see poltergeists put on physical clothing for some reason. Ghosts might be able to change their appearance, but usually not by physically dressing up. Like a sheet, I think that's the most I've ever seen ghosts wear. I feel like in Beetlejuice they wear sheets at one point, right? They're trying to scare everybody. But that's one piece. I feel like if you had to like have pants and like a shirt and shoes and socks and all that stuff, that's like a lot of clothing for you to have to like maintain a physical form to wear it. So I think it's just too much work for a ghost? I don't know. I would propose when it came to Gregory being a ghost at the Pizzaplex that he was a victim who went missing there. Perhaps that's why there are no records of him, because Afton had them wiped clean. I imagine he would find a way to do that for all of his victims here so that he could preserve his hunting ground. It also seems odd that Gregory has no relatives to speak of. The game leads us to believe this is because Gregory is homeless and even possibly suggests that he or someone at least may have been living in the Pizzaplex prior to the events of Security Breach, with hidden alcoves where it looks like someone has been kind of like squatting and living. And with one of the endings showing Gregory living in a gutter, huddling under a newspaper for warmth. Is it also possible that Gregory would always be cold if he was a ghost? So could his seeking warmth in that ending also be a hint that he's no longer of this world? That might be a bit of a stretch, but it's still something to consider at least. I mean, ghosts are usually really very cold. That's, you know, they say when a ghost passes through you feel like a chill. So I'm just saying it could be a connection. I know I'm stretching, but just come with me on this ghostly journey. Please, come with me. It'll be fun. Despite the fact that Security Breach seems to want us to think that Gregory is homeless, it's also possible that he simply can't remember his home. After all, for being homeless, he looks relatively well kept and well dressed. And who gave him that band-aid on his cheek, or where did he get it from if he doesn't have literally anyone around to look after him? Did he run away from home? Or is it that Gregory no longer remembers his home because his life was taken from him during a visit to the Pizzaplex and now he basically haunts it, his soul trapped due to his unsolved murder and the traumatic nature of his death? Perhaps this experience was so traumatic that he doesn't even remember that he's dead, which is why he doesn't even try to communicate it to Freddy or even really reflect on it himself while alone. I think if he is a ghost, he doesn't really fully understand that himself. This could also imply why the real and true ending for this game has to be in defeating William Afton, aka Burn Trap. It could be that this is Gregory's unfinished business, and the ending we get if Vanny is redeemed with Vanessa, Freddy, and Gregory on the hill is actually symbolizing that they have all crossed over and now get to be together and at peace. After all, that whole hill with the tree and everything, it definitely reminds me of the gravestones that we've seen before in FNAF, so to me it feels very like ghost vibes, in my opinion. Of course, one theory we've been discussing on Top 10 Gaming for a while since before the release of Security Breach is that Gregory could actually be Crying Child. If so, this also kind of fits with our ghost theory. I mean, sure, Crying Child could be an animatronic replacement child who was created after the original Crying Child's death. Gregory could be a lifelike animatronic as such, but it's also possible that Gregory, if he is a ghost, is actually the spirit of Crying Child, because although we have theories about where that spirit is, we've never really fully gotten any confirmation on those theories, I don't think. They're still kind of theories. Perhaps that is why he is so closely tied to the Pizzaplex, which was also built on top of the Freddy's location we manage in FNAF 6, Pizzeria Simulator, where it's believed all the souls were gathered as part of Henry's plot to finally defeat Afton and then set all his victims' souls free. And if you still aren't sure if Gregory is Crying Child or not, that's fine. I still say they have lots of similarities, but Gregory doesn't need to be Crying Child for him to also be a ghost. It just seems like another theoretical connection that supports the ghost theory that we're discussing here. Let us know your thoughts on this theory in the comments below. Do you support it? Do you have other evidence that you think makes it even more valid? Or do you very much think Gregory is just a normal, average child who's homeless and somehow got into the Pizzaplex without a ticket or a parent or a guardian? Do you think he could be Crying Child? And if so, is he Crying Child alive, dead, or animatronic? Who is the ghost with the most? Is it you, Gregory? Welcome back, my fellow gamers, to another FNAF Security Breach theory video. Today we'll be talking about everyone's favorite Security Breach character because, well, we all play as him, Gregory. Okay, so admittedly, Glamrock Freddy is my favorite character, and then probably Glamrock Chica, and then Vanny, then Gregory, but he ranks in the top at least because he is the protagonist, and that's just how that cookie crumbles. But speaking of cookies, can you eat them if you're a ghost? Perhaps not. Part of the reason why I was initially suspicious of Gregory being a ghost was his very mysterious origin. The Pizzaplex seems to have no records of him and is unable to locate his parents or even any trace of him in the system, implying he somehow, I guess, snuck into the Pizzaplex, or perhaps he is a victim that never left. I know we get that ending where Gregory is sleeping in the streets homeless, but don't worry, I'll be talking about that too and how I think that could actually play into my theory of Gregory being a ghost and possibly a victim of villainous and murderous animatronics. But more on that later. Getting back to those cookies, let's talk about them. Can you eat cookies or drink drinks if you're dead? Well, I personally do not think you can. The drinks and food wouldn't be able to be processed by your ghostly form, so it really wouldn't make sense for you to be able to. We've all seen what happens when someone like Slimer from Ghostbuster eats food. It kind of just goes right through him, and if anything, it turns into slime or ectoplasm. You can't really process it properly. It's pretty gross. Now, Gregory never seems to be compelled to eat, so we don't know for sure, but it also seems odd that you would be collecting so many tasty and limited edition drinks and food items without being able to eat them, which in this game, for some reason, you just can't do that. It's especially weird actually because when you play in Help Wanted, you can eat things, and that's like a VR game, so I don't understand how that all works. And throughout the course of the evening, Gregory doesn't even express that he is hungry, and that is a long time and a lot of running around to do and not to be hungry from. If you're alive, that is. Which, like I said, I really think this is more evidence that Gregory may no longer be considered as such. Spirits don't really have a need to get hungry as they don't have proper bods, so they don't need to like fuel them. They're just ghosty ghosts. They don't have physical forms, you know? Aside from not being able to eat, you also don't seem to feel much of any normal human pains. Gregory gets tired periodically from prolonged running and crawling in terms of his stamina bar, but he doesn't actually express getting tired in terms of like being sleepy. He's never like, oh my gosh, I'm like so tired. Okay, so like maybe when Moondrop is coming around trying to make you sleepy, but I don't know, that's some weird stuff. That's a thing that every time I talk about it, I'm like, I don't even know if this should be in this game. Considering how late Gregory is staying up for a normal human child, it's pretty odd that he doesn't ever express being like tired from staying up too late. Of course, if you're a robot, then the normal everyday pains experienced in human life wouldn't affect you. You don't need to sleep, so why would you get tired? Which, you know, he could also be an animatronic. Sure, we see him trying to sleep in an alley in one of the endings, but we don't actually hear him express feeling tired or ever see him fully asleep. So I'm thinking either animatronic or ghosty ghost. Take your pick. We're focusing on ghosts though in this theory, so let's get back to that. Right at the beginning of this game, I was pretty suspicious of Gregory when it came to him being a real living kid. Something was weird about him. He just, I don't know, there's something off about Gregory. I just look at him and I'm like, I don't know, what's up with you? Are you real? Are you a real boy? Right at the beginning, he generally just seemed to be too big to actually fit into Freddy's stomach cavity. Especially when you learn, at least initially, there was also a Fazwatch dispenser in there somehow. I know these stomachs are in theory possibly based off of Williams' designs, which were about capturing kids, or at least seemed to be from his sinister perspective. But in this game, even Glamrock Freddy seems to think Gregory moving around inside of him is dangerous, as that is an area that is really only meant to be large enough for moving things like birthday cakes and piñatas. I imagine even the piñatas would actually have to be really small though, because that cavity does not look big enough for a piñata to me. Also, I don't know about you, but I don't think I've ever seen a birthday cake for a kid's party that was large enough to be considered the size of a small child. Like, how big would that cake have to be for this to work? Like, he's have to be carrying around giant cakes in his stomach. Also, am I just not eating large enough cakes? Is that what is happening here? Am I missing out? Are people giving me tiny little like dinky cakes for my birthday? If that's the reality though, if I'm not just like getting tiny cakes and people are ripping me off on my birthday, I'm gonna be real sad. Even when I make cakes though, I don't make them that big. Let me know your thoughts about cake sizes down in the comments below, and let me know how big the biggest birthday cake you've ever seen or made in person was.
Maybe Scott thought that he was too subtle with Gregory, only putting 2 stripes on his shirt, so this time he went for the full outfit including color. Speaking of color, there's also the matter of her shoes, the only part of her that isn't rimlet that has color, the color of her lights being purple and red. Purple obviously being a nod to William Afton, aka the Purple Guy, a character so synonymous with purple that I can't wear my favorite shirt on this channel now without being called a serial killer. And red, while misleading, actually does tie back to Elizabeth Afton in the form of Baby. Her entire outfit was red, including her bright red hair, and I mean, like, it seems fairly reasonable to assume that this girl has at least a connection to the Afton family, although there is another explanation for the red on her shoes. Give me a minute. Given that the other 2 humans on this screen, Vanny and Gregory, are also connected to the Aftons, we can guess that this is the case with the blonde girl as well. However, I don't think that the girl herself is Elizabeth. Here's the wow moment, alright? I think that this girl is possessed by Elizabeth. Yeah, I know, right? Hear me out. I know I said that that's not possible with Susie, but that's because we freed her, alright? There are 7 faces on the Blob, the secret antagonist of Security Breach. 4 of them have lit red eyes, and 2 of them don't. The 4 that do are Naked Endo, FNAF 1 Bonnie, FNAF 1 Chica, and Mangle, all of which are somehow present in some form or another in the Pizzaplex. Mangle is Roxy, Bonnie was Bonnie, Chica was Chica, and we fight multiple endos on multiple occasions. The 2 that aren't present, however, don't have their eyes lit up, Baby and the puppet. But we know that fire doesn't do anything to Remnant, clearly. I mean, Afton has burned, what, 3 times now, and none have stuck? And in another video, we determined that the spirits can only be freed when they get their unfinished business resolved, like the missing children in Happiest Day. Baby also doesn't seem too happy about burning in FNAF 6. She in fact says that she wants to make her daddy proud, and dying to fire would really do the opposite considering how many he survived. So, much like we suspect Michael could have, Elizabeth could have swapped bodies as well, into one of the missing children that Vanny took. Hell, that could have been why Vanny took them in the first place. Afton wanted his daughter to have a vessel, hence why this one looks so much like Elizabeth's original body. This also explains why there is red on her shoes, because it's meant to represent the glowing red eyes that would be in the animatronic head. Remember, it's damn hard to kill an Afton for good, and in the books, Baby is really the one orchestrating everything, at least when it comes to the Afton amalgamation. Especially since this girl is facing away, her eyes could also be green. And I have a feeling that throughout the game we will see her eyes either flip-flop or start off blue and become green or something like that. Or, what I think would be the coolest way to do this would be having her eyes green normally, like if we see it in like a camera or something, but be blue in a mirror. So, here's how I think the story went. After the FNAF 6 fire, William gets a hold of Vanny in order to get his body back. He creates through the company a new location on top of the old one to hide his deeds, and then he sets himself free. In the process though, he notices that his daughter's spirit is also stuck. Since this is the first time they've been together since he put her in the basement of sister location, he decides to help her out, and causes Vanny to start abducting kids who look like his in an effort to rebuild his former family. Given that his youngest son is either still possessing him or now loose to the elements as well, the blonde girl is then kidnapped and Elizabeth finds her suitable host, so she's possessed. And now she follows Vanessa around in an effort to keep an eye on her and remind her that Afton is always watching. She starts manipulating her through encoded chats and messages, and hacks the FNAF AR animatronics to cause them to malfunction, and gets Vanessa promoted to security guard to keep an even closer eye on her. As a part of her observations, she starts therapy just like Vanessa does, and despite her telling the truth about her family history, it doesn't line up with the girl that she's possessed. Hence the one therapist calling out Client 46 for it, and her explanation about what happened to her family seeming to lack emotion, since after all she watched it happen as Baby instead of experiencing it as an actual child. After the collapse, she is either brought back by Afton requesting help with himself, or possibly also to help secure the vessel for Crying Child, who escaped along with a Michael possessed Glamrock Freddy. To me, this seems like a game about reuniting with lost brothers, lost hope, but most of all, reuniting a family. The Afton family. After all, we have all the characters now. The misguided father whose misdeeds cost him everything, his loyal daughter who wants to see her family back, the mother who now agrees and is a part of the father's plan, even if unwillingly so, and the sons, one too scared to do anything, and the older brother who helps him beat the circle that their father created, who rights their wrongs and makes up for their family's sins. What do you think? I feel like I'm pretty spot on with this one, and that this could be a great launching point for the next part of the series, but let me know what you think down below.